Okay, so I figured during this lockdown I'd make a special video here, which happens to be my old school portfolio, print portfolio, which almost nobody sees these days from me. It goes all the way back into the 90s. Figured I'd open it up for a while because this is like the only archive thing that I still have from decades back in my life. This is kind of where all my graphic design stuff started, which later led to motion graphics, video, animation, and all that. But this is basically the starting of it. There's a couple things here, like this one. We used to do these, some people call them rave parties or events, concerts and stuff out in parks and ranches. This particular flyer, which you can see how far my design has come, like the contrast isn't there. I'm assuming you can see it in the camera, but that was like the very, very, very first flyer that I did for like one of our first events that we put on solo. Tons and tons of DJs on that. That was out at some big ranch up in like North Texas, but I didn't even have Photoshop yet at that time. This is also from that same location. So this is September 1998, October 1998. This is just a side note. I found this when I opened up the portfolio, but it's a thing that me and my brothers put together back in, this is dated October of 2003, confidentiality report. We mailed a patent in for an electronic digital coloring book idea. So here's all the couple dozen different features that we thought of. And at the same time that we were thinking of this, other people were making it that already had backing and stuff behind them, but we thought it was a great idea. All these are old Photoshop designs. There's one with like Barney, but just to show, like, each of these would have been like buttons. You have a stylus, on and off, up and down, and then like a little cartridge loading thing. Bunch of alternative designs to it with like different branding or license branding. Pokemon, couple versions. These have been like a cartridge pack that had different things for the kids to load up. License cartridge. Styluses that each had their own color assigned to them, which we thought that was clever at the time. Most of this portfolio is these old Rave flyers and nightclub flyers and stuff that I did in Photoshop. This is Ignition, which was commissioned by some folks that I met. This is for a date of March 2003. Vicious Vic, Duran. Pretty cool. This Surreality one was one of the first ones that I really got paid to do, and where I was like, okay, now I can do things professionally. Like, that's where it really started. I used this old program called Poser, which is now Dad's 3D, I believe. But this is all Photoshop and Poser 3D. June of 2000, I think, is the date for this event, which I believe was at the Ridgely Theater. I think, a long time ago. But back in those days, you know, that was like the first real professional stuff that I did, and I remember it took like a week to make that on a computer that now would be antique, but at the time was like top of the line, you know. This one, Rough and Fluff stuff, I created those little guys in the corner. This is for a particular event, which we'll see a couple down the line, the event that this started with, but there was some guys that got together and they commissioned me to make these flyers. I actually took the dragon thing from a tattoo design and recreated it there. Starlight Ball was one of our own, one of our last parties, I think. This was at the Home Bar in Dallas, May 2001, which is currently, you know, the Green Elephant in Dallas, over off of Greenville or 75 in SMU or something, close to SMU. Naughty and Nice. This one was sort of like we created these good and bad guys. Naughty and Nice as a logo, but it also sort of fit the Flyers, so that was their first thing. That was a commission piece for Rabbit, Titan, Ed Crunk, lots of people on that one. This Blackout Flyer was really the first thing that I ever got professionally printed that I did myself. And at that event, that was me and my brother's first inaugural event, September 2000, at our warehouse, and we basically got tons of black lights, giant black lights that filled this entire warehouse, along with lights that were reactive to the sound of the music. And I wish, at the time, we took footage of it, but that's long gone, and I really wish we had footage because that was amazing. This euphonic one was for Epic Entertainment, which I ended up doing a lot for those guys under commission. Sort of a dragon design. That guy DJ, I ended up buying my MIDI controller keyboard from him, which I haven't used in many years. It's still here though, sitting in my collection. Those are good times. This Euphoria Flyer was actually the first thing where I got paid quite a bit. I think I got like $500 to create this, which was the first bigger payday for just designing a flyer that I got. This was also at the Ridgely Theater in Fort Worth. I took these images of these sort of fairy girls here. December 2000 was the date of the event. I remember it was such a big event, and they had a huge budget, and myself and my brother and some friends all got to go in a limo to go ride around with some of the DJs before the event, and then we hung out in an RV and stuff. It was really decadent, and the place was amazing. That was a very cool night, but one of my largest jobs for sure, probably the largest or second largest, one of the two. Valance Entertainment, which I worked with quite a bit. This is a tag team, me and my buddy who I lived with, June 2000. We both worked on that flyer. Some smaller flyers. This one was from a Canada production company that wanted me to put some anime on their thing with a motorcycle, and we did that. That was cool. That was my first out of country. Power of the Dark Side, that might have been the first one that I did for DJ Titan and his boys. Even though I knew all these guys at the time, all the people on that flyer. But it's been a lot of years. More Epic Entertainment, which I ended up doing a lot of their Lizard Lounge flyers between like 2001 and 2004, or 2003, I think. This would have been our Christmas party that we did Toys for Tots. I don't know, that was 2000 or something, and we had an entire trailer full of toys and stuff that was donated for that. This Epiphany one was taken from the Powerpuff Girls. That was the theme. That was at Eddie Dean's in Dallas, just by the convention center over here, just in my neighborhood now, actually. It was huge, huge event. I remember I went dressed as Professor X, the Doctor. It was such an amazing lineup, and everything was beautiful. It had all these sponsors over here on the right-hand side. That was a quintessential flyer that went out all over the place in DFW. Here Comes Trouble, Lockdown. I think that was another one of Titan and these other guys in Deep Ellum. These are from this record and clothing store that me and my brothers tried to open. We lasted about 1 month because we really didn't know what we were doing, but we did know how to make the ads, and we had people come in there. Grooveology, Dyer Street, which is Home Bar / Green Elephant. Now here's a flyer and a ticket. So we did these in conjunction for a while. We would create these cool tickets with stickers and holograms on them and number them and sell them at the local record store in advance. Sorry that's out of focus there, but it was really cool because for a while there we would make a ticket that goes along with the flyer. And so everybody would get their flyer and then go to the record store and pre-purchase their physical ticket that they could bring to the door and get stamped. And we had like these hole punches with a special shape, so you could keep your ticket afterwards. There's some really old stuff from Rack Daddies in Arlington, which was like the social hangout for a lot of us back in around the 2000 era. This was actually for a magazine layout in New York where these guys wanted to put their artist and DJ roster. This is just a printed copy, that's why there's water damage, but it did go out in this major magazine up in New York. I wish I had the full copy. bunch of conceptual stuff. Oh, and then we did a weekly back in 2003 when I was just starting to get into college. We used to do these Monday and Tuesday night things in Dallas, and we lived in the mid-cities, so we would have to ride all the way across the Metroplex. Now these are really cool. These are VIP or staff badges that we would create. So for events where we had people working security or working the door or working concessions, all those people would get official badges that they could wear. And all we did was simply design them in Photoshop and then go down to Kinko's and print them out and get them laminated and do a little hole punch and put some yarn in there. And it was nice and simple, but I think it helped people feel special. You know, they really liked having those badges. Now this was really cool. I did not design this flyer, but it's a single flyer from way back, predating all this other stuff, when I worked with these two brothers who were throwing events, and I was their roommate, and they first showed me Photoshop. But this was at the Bronco Bowl in Dallas, which is now a Home Depot, but for many, many years it was a gigantic venue that had concert halls and bowling alleys and arcades and food and everything. And the Crystal Method, which are pretty famous now, but that was like way back in '97. I remember working with those guys, Kiyoki, Dimitri, Darcy, Jeff K. All these people were here, but this was a really clever design, and I keep it in my thing, even though I didn't design it, because it's like a piece of history, which is now, gosh, that's surprisingly 23 years old. I can't believe it. But I do remember calling Crystal Method a taxi cab at the time and helping load some of their equipment, so that was my little brush with their fame. So that's mostly it. You know, we have a bunch of, back at that time we used to create contracts, even though they weren't really worth anything, but we did rules, contracts, sign-ups, riders, signs for liability and all that we would post up at the front door anytime we did events. Lots of different stuff. But so anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. That was just a little peek at the first graphic design stuff I did, you know, 20 plus years ago for the most part. And thanks for watching.